Okay, Dick Budnick at WPS on, God, what is the date? August 24th? August 24th, and doing a presentation on how to find good free photography stuff off of the web, basically. And so my starting point here, basically, is that we have online tutorials. You can go to individual websites, things like Photoshop Cafe. This particular website here is Photoshop Essentials, and there's a bunch of these. But the problem is, either you happen upon these by Google or you hear about it from somebody else. There's no organized way to really find those. You can go to Adobe, and you can go to they have tutorials whenever they come out with a new version of Lightroom, Photoshop, or whatever on the new features. If you want to get into fights about anything and you're a measure baiter, you can go to DP Review and argue about why your camera is the best camera in the world and everybody else is an idiot. Yeah, but they do have good camera reviews at DP Review. But the big places to go to get freebies is iTunes has an enormous number of podcasts on the iTunes store that you can get for free and subscribe to them, and new episodes come down usually every week or every couple of weeks. And the other big place we can get stuff for free is YouTube. YouTube, you can have your own user channel. I created my own user channel a couple of days ago just to see what it was like, and you can actually post your own videos up there if you want. They limit you to 15 minutes per video, and supposedly they take it down if you're using illegal, copyrighted music. How they find out if you have it, unless somebody complains, I don't know. Because, 90% of everything I've ever looked at on YouTube has been illegal music background. Yeah. So, did they close you down? Oh, all right. So you got to use bad music, I guess. Yeah. So, anyway, but you can also, as you come across other photographers there, a lot of the photographers have their own YouTube channel, and you can subscribe to their channel so that when they post something new on YouTube, it comes down to you. You get an email saying, "Hey, there's a new gives you the title of the new video." B&H and Adorama have their own like academic centers, right? You know what Adorama calls it? You work for Adorama, don't you? On and off. Adorama Learning Center or academic. Okay, and B&H has they do weekly programs where they have people come in, famous and not so famous, and give talks on virtually anything about photography and equipment. And both of them have their own channels on YouTube. So everything that they've ever done is in a video on YouTube and accessible to you, and it's all free. Look first at DP Review. DP Review is dpreview.com, and again, they would like you to sign in with a handle. I'm Digital Dick on DP Review. The nice thing about DP Review is they do have the news. So you can look here and you can see Kodak to exit consumer photography. Anyway, there's all kinds of news here, but the real neat thing about DP Review is they also have reviews. You see, they review most of the new cameras that come out if it's an interesting camera. And they have reviews that go back forever and ever. So if you want, they're also reviewing lenses now. They've started reviewing most of the Nikon, Canon, and Sony lenses. They even threw in occasional. Oh, they got the Olympus one up. Interesting. Okay. So basically, things are in chronological order, or you can look them up under date, rate, or brand. So you can click on the brand. You can see all your Canon lenses that they've reviewed. One Konica Minolta lens. Yeah. A few Olympus lenses, some Panasonics. Where's the Nikons? Got to be some Nikons. Oops, did I miss it right there? Okay, they've reviewed those Nikon lenses. And they have some Tamarons and Sigma and Sonys also, and one Tokina. Okay, so good lens reviews. They are pretty. They actually do try to compare lenses by shooting against standard targets, so that you can actually look up the actual conditions that they shot under and see, is this one better than this one, if you know how to interpret their test, I guess. The other thing that's very nice is they do review cameras. And the camera reviews, again, can be by, you can search the list by date, you can search by brand, or you can search by how they rate the camera. Their rating system means absolutely nothing, I think, because they've never seen a Nikon or Canon they didn't like, and they've never seen any other camera they did like. Yeah. but in terms of their rating. But they do give honest comments about the camera, what they like and what they dislike about individual cameras. And the other interesting thing about their reviews, the most important thing to me, let's see if I can come down and show you one of these. Okay, this is the camera I was saying last week that I bought. This is the Olympus, the new Olympus OMD. So they have a fairly substantial review of it. It's 23 pages long. Okay, so if you're like most of us, you just go click on conclusion. All right, and it tells you what they like about the camera, tells you what they don't like about the camera. They sort of, this is their section where they get a chance to basically hem and haw a bit. And then they come down and they actually do compare it to other cameras, and they do actually give it a rating. That's the first time an Olympus has ever got an 80, I think. Yeah. But you can actually, compare features here. You can say compare to, let's see, compare to on, and pick a different camera. And if you want to see how that camera compares to, for example, what's its competition? I don't know if a Rebel is its competition or if one of the old, let's see what they think. Let's compare it to like the Nikon D7000. You add that. And what it does here is it shows you, but basically you can see these cameras are almost identical. Very little difference between those cameras. One of the things that's useful in their reviews here is they shoot the image quality and they compare it from camera to camera. So they're doing a standard test target. This is their test target that they use, and they actually use, I can turn off and show preset positions. So what they do is they take little areas here that they blow up, all right? And for example, this is the coins on this bottle of wine. And you can pop it up here and you can see how your camera, or this camera, in case the OMD, how it compares. This is at, you set the ISO. So this is at JPEG. You can do JPEG or RAW. You set the ISO at whatever ISO you want, and then it compares the other ones at the same setting. So let's say you go up to like 6400 and you set, all right? So that's showing you the Olympus at 6400 JPEG ISO compared to, for example, the Panasonic G3, compared to a Samsung, compared to the Sony Eleanor's little Next 7, okay? So you can decide which, is the image quality better on one or the other. Looks like you don't want to buy the Samsung in this particular case. Yeah. And you could drop down and compare it to other, more interesting cameras if you don't like the Samsung. Let's compare it to, let's see, the Canon. What's the top of the line? 5D Mark III? Is that the top? That's pretty close to the top. Okay. So that's the, this is at, what did I say the ISO was? So at 6400 ISO, that the Olympus is not looking bad. Yeah. So remarkably good, considering that this is a full frame camera, right? Yeah. And this is a little micro four thirds, so it's like half the size of the sensor of the other one. So not too bad. And even if you go up to even higher ISOs, bring it up to 25,000. Okay, even at 25,000, you're getting a little ratty, but it's not doing bad. Yeah, it's remarkable how well these cameras are holding up these days. Okay. Anyway, so DP Review it's really good because it's got this kind of information on it, and it really is. You can look at this and say, does it really matter? How is it really worth the, what is it, $3,000 difference between these two cameras, to buy the better camera? So it's very useful. Now, the bad news on DP Review is they also have this enormous forum section where you go to the forums, and there's a news discussion forum, which nobody goes to anymore, but everybody goes to the forum for their particular camera so they can yell and scream about their camera. So this one that I bought is, even though it's an Olympus, it's under the Micro Four Thirds section, which includes the Olympus Micro Four Thirds and the Panasonic Micro Four Thirds. And you see that it's a pretty active group. If you look at the last post, it was 2 minutes ago, but you run off the scale here. The first page, you're back 12 hours. So I don't know how many posts that is, like 100 posts there that have been updated within the last 12 hours. And there's 938 more pages of posts. So you can, and some of these posts run. I mean, the comments on these things run forever. here's some guy wanting the OMD firmware wish list. Okay, so he says what he wants to do or what he wants to see, but these are all responses to that message. Okay, and they don't get counted. Yeah, so you could spend the rest of your life on here. And the bad news is most of the people that type stuff on here, that's what they do. That's all they do. They may own the camera. They probably own 5 or 6 cameras. They probably have never taken a picture out of any of those cameras, but they know every spec, every detail. They pixel peep these things beyond unbelievable belief. The problem is, the nice thing about the internet is the most brilliant people in the world are on the internet, and the dumbest idiots in the world are on the internet, and it's hard to tell them apart. It really is tough at times. So it's sort of, it's you got to listen to things, read things, and just sort of say, does that make sense to me or not? Does that guy got a good point? Is there something? Does he actually have a picture to back it up? When he says this camera sucks, let me see it. And and the interesting thing that you really see is when a new camera just comes out. The first guys that buy it, and there's always this collection of, it's like, probably 10,000 people have bought the damn camera before you see one good picture from that camera, right? Because, again, they collect cameras, they don't know anything about photography, so they don't know how to make the most of the camera.
They also post interesting challenges.
Oh, yeah. Actually, yes, they do. I've never gotten involved in challenges, but yes, they do have a whole forum section over here on galleries and on challenges. So it's a never running photo contest. So it's on fishing. So there's one on fishing, one on honeybees, door knocks. You can look at the titles: clouds, clouded seas, and people send in. And I don't know did they win anything or they just get their picture? They just get a first place. Yeah, bragging rights. Okay. So anyway, it's an interesting site. It has become the definitive site on photography around the world. If you really want to make a point about anything photographic, you got to put it on here eventually. Okay, even guys that we respect, guys like Michael Reichman, who does the Luminous Landscape website, he gets cameras and he actually shoots them and tells you how they work in the field. But when it comes to reviewing, the actual how good is this camera on a technical basis, he refers back you over to this site. And even who's that idiot, Ken Rockwell? Whenever you have a good camera when he attacks it, because he only attacks things that are popular to draw traffic to his website so he can get money. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, there are. Yeah, that's true. They have started a segment on articles. And where they have articles by products, review stuff 26, let's see, pro photography, a couple of articles, what's something like this? Okay, Photo Technique's got 29 articles right now, and they have articles on composition rules, evolution of an image, finding macro wildlife, One Light Studio. And again, some of these they actually hire somebody that knows what they're doing to write the article. A lot of them are just submitted by people on DP Review. They do go through somebody, some editor somewhere.
This is sort of like a replacement for, let's say, Popular Photography magazine.
Well, and without the ads, actually, yeah. But no, I mean, there's a lot of options. It's a big site. They've added a lot to it. The guy that started this site was from England, and he ran it, him and 2 other guys for years. And I think who bought it? Amazon owns it, I think now. I think they sold it to Amazon. They cashed out. They big time cashed out. Yeah. You got some. No, they moved to Washington, state of Washington. Yeah. It is Amazon. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so that's an option. Okay. Anyway, but so that's an option. Let me go into iTunes. iTunes is the biggest, to me, the biggest, easiest place to get software. To get podcast for free. Let me see if I can. Oops, I canceled something I didn't want to, but that's okay. Okay, if you want to be able to get the podcast from iTunes, what you have to do is you have to go to Apple, and you have to download the iTunes software. Yeah, Apple iTunes. There we go. Okay. So you could go to apple.com and then at the banner at the top, just click on iTunes, or this actual extension is apple.com/iTunes. So basically you come down to iTunes, This is the current version. It's a free download. All you have to do is, you have to have JavaScript enabled on your browser, by the way. But if you do, you click on it, and it basically brings you somewhere. Something's not running. Oh, because I don't have JavaScript enabled. I'm running Firefox, and Firefox, I have this cute little plugin in Firefox that basically stops all JavaScript unless you specifically allow it for that site. And then from that point on, it always remembers it. And so it means you can surf the porno channels, in peace, without getting viruses. And you can go to the legitimate channels and then just get hit by double click. Yeah. So anyway, and you saw the difference. Until I clicked on JavaScript, this stuff didn't show up. All right. So if you go to a page and it looks like it's kind of blank and you say, gee, there ought to be something on here, but I don't know what it is, turn on your JavaScript. Okay, so email me news on iTunes. Uncheck that. Keep me up to date. Uncheck that. Whenever you're downloading anything free from the internet, always look around the download box, because there's always these little check marks that say, put the Bing thing on, Bing search engine, the Ask search engine, the whoever, they give you all these freebies that everybody on earth would want. Yeah. But eventually there is free download. So if you click on download now, okay, it brings up a little window, and it's going to download a file. This is a file. It's got a .exe extension, which works on a PC. If you're going to do it on a Mac, I assume there's a different download page. Yeah. And okay, and would you want to save the file? If you say save the file, okay, now in Firefox has its own download area, and you see what it's doing is it's downloading the program right here. That's a progress bar. It just finished downloading it. And in the case of Firefox, if you're on AOL, AOL downloads everything without telling you to a folder called downloads. Okay, Firefox does the same thing. It's got a download folder that's under users dick downloads. Okay, where it puts this stuff. You can redirect it to put it anywhere you want yourself. But most times I deal with people and I tell them download this, and they download it, and I say now go find it, and they say where? And they say, I don't have that folder. I don't know where it went. Did you watch? No, So anyway, in the case of Firefox, if you right-click on it and you say Open Containing Folder, it opens up your Internet Explorer window, your Windows Explorer window, and it goes, you can see up on top, Computer, C drive, Users, Dick, and there's a folder called Downloads. And you see it over here on the side too, on the left side. So we're under the C drive, we're under the users subfolder, we're under Dick, then we're under downloads, and these are the things that are in downloads. And so that's the setup right there. And if you were to just double click on it, it opens up a window and says run, and if you say run, it's going to, and again, look for any extraneous stuff coming in. Say run, okay, and it's going to try to open up an installation wizard. Now, in my case, I've already got iTunes on here, so we can't go any further than this unless I remove it and reinstall it, which I don't really feel like doing here. But in your case, you're going to open up an installation wizard that says, do you accept our terms, which you've read carefully, right? And so you check that box, and then you just say yes, 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 until the window goes away. All right? But again, whenever you go in those installation wizards, always look, around the corners and make sure there aren't any little check marks, because they're trying to add other stuff onto it. iTunes doesn't add anything else on because they own everything anyway. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to cancel this. Yes. All right. And finish. All right. So anyway, so what happens when you do that is that installs the iTunes software for you on your computer. And if you've done this correctly, what it will do is in your start button, all programs, and if you look through here somewhere, there should be a folder that says iTunes probably. There it is. iTunes, and if you click on it, it's about iTunes, and this is the actual iTunes software. It may or may not install the icon up on your desk for you already. If you like it there and it's not there at any time, you can just right-click on the icon and just say copy, and then go over to the folder over here, right-click and say paste, and it will paste a shortcut up here for you. Now, I already have one up here, so I'm going to undo this one. I'm just going to delete that. Okay, and the other thing I'd like to do with something like iTunes is I also put it down on the taskbar at the bottom so it's convenient to get to. Now, to run it, if you're up here, you just double-click on it on a PC. Down here, you just single-click on it, and it opens up. And this is the actual software. And it comes in, it says iTunes at the top, and you'll notice it wants to store your music, and I don't have all my music in it, but some of my music is here, okay? You can store your movies. I don't have any there. I don't have any TV shows yet. I do happen to have 109 podcasts at the moment, okay? And there's also radio in here. I don't know if you've ever played around with this stuff, but if you go down and do the, where the hell is it? What's a good one? We need some good electronic music. Yeah. Okay, these are radio stations. These are all internet radio stations. Okay, so anyway, there's a lot of possibilities there. And you know, if you've got nothing better to do with your life, you can sit around and listen to internet radio for the rest of your life. Now, the other interesting thing that's here is iTunes Store. Now, if you come into podcasts and there's nothing here, which there won't be the first time through, what you do is you come down to the little side thing here. It says iTunes Store. When you click on that, you have to have an internet connection, but it goes out to the internet, and we're going to the iTunes Store. Okay. Now, if you want to buy music, you have to set up an account. You got to give them a credit card and give them a username and create a password and all that. But if all you want to do is play with the free stuff, all you have to do is come over here to where it says podcast at the top. Click on podcast, all right, and then go over to the search engine and type in something like Photoshop. P-H-O-T-O. Oops. S-H-O-P. Yeah, you have to type more or less correctly. Okay, so it's got iPhone apps that are available. Now, some of these are free, you'll notice. See, it says free. Some say buy, $9.99 for this particular one here. Okay, but there's podcasts. For example, Photoshop User TV, Scott Kelby's one. Okay, and Photoshop Killer Tips. I think that's a Matt Kwiatkowski. And Photoshop for Digital Photographers is Michael Rather. Those are three excellent podcasts. That you know, every week they put out a new episode on some aspect of photography. So, for example, Photoshop User TV, if I double-click on it, it shows you the episodes, the recent episodes, not all of them. Well, there's a total of 100 episodes that are up on iTunes. They're all for free. See, they'll say free over here. You always want to check over here. There's a rating. I don't know whoever rates these things. But basically, if you want to get the latest episode of this, all you have to do is, first you want to subscribe to the podcast. The way the podcasts work is, think of it as you're buying a book with a bunch of chapters, and every week a new chapter comes to you. So what you do is you subscribe to the podcast, and it will list the podcast down in your iTunes site. And then it will download, when you subscribe, it will download the most recent available episode of that podcast. And you can go back later and you can get all the earlier ones if you want, okay? And so in this case, you would just say, I want to subscribe to this, and I've already subscribed, so I'm not going to click on it here. But if I just said subscribe, what you would see happening is a download button would show up over here on the left side, and it would be a spinning wheel with a number in it. And it would say number 1 because it's downloading one podcast, okay? So that's all there is to it, basically. It's a nice freebie for you. So once you've done that, all you do is go back to podcast. And, for example, if I come down to Photoshop User TV, okay, this is that episode we were just looking at. All right, and I've already downloaded it. And if you double-click on it, it starts playing. If I put the sound up.
And now, here are your hosts, the Photoshop guys.
Here we go, Corey. Well, hi, everyone. Welcome to Photoshop User TV. This is the season finale. Wow.
we have reached the end.
Okay, so you have to watch some really bad amateur TV, but they do Photoshop tips and that kind of stuff.
His hair. He fascinated me because he would, I mean, this stuff would magically appear on his canvases. And
these areas right under her eyes kind of bug me just a little.
Crazy good. I don't know what it is. All right,
we give him a hard time.
They have guest people come in and show a technique. Several of the people we've had on the program have been at WPS have been there.
Like hanging in hotel rooms,
right,
or things like that. Sad but true. All right, so let's go to a little special clip from Mr. Tony Corbell.
Hey everybody, RC here, and I'm really, really happy to be here with one of the senior managers.
So what happens in the case of Kelby Media Group is Kelby has this training program that he runs, which he charges you, is it $100 a year, I think, something like that. And he's got hundreds and thousands of videos on photography on his site, and you can download all of these for the basic $100 a year. So whenever he's bringing new people in to do one of these videotapes, they grab them and they put them on Photoshop User TV.
And if I zoom into this face, gorgeous girl, young girl, beautiful skin, but everyone needs a little bit of help with a little bit of retouch.
He's going to fix the bags under her eyes.
Under her eyes kind of bug me just a little bit. And I know everybody's got their own way of doing things, and there's shortcuts, there's long ways to do it, there's easy ways to do it. I need to do things as quickly as I can. So for me, I always go to the patch tool for this type of thing, and I just draw a real quick selection right under this area, right in here, and I'll move it down and get some new information here, of course, and then before I click off of it, I'm going to go back to edit and then go fade patch selection. I'm just going to drop that back to keep a little bit of that reality there, maybe 50–60%, something like that, and it does help a little bit, keeps a little bit of those lines looking natural, but it does help sort of soften things up just a little bit. And like I say, this is one of the tips that I've started using several years ago, just because I needed to come up with some way.
So you can see, basically they give you a simple tip. It's usually confined to one little area, sort of. And in his case, a good Photoshop guy will always tell you, you fix it and then don't make it look too good because nobody will believe it. So you basically fade it back, or you do it on a separate layer and lower the opacity. Hey, that's the answer for everything, right? Who did he have on? I was going to, let me see if I can quickly get in there somewhere.
Chosen, and it doesn't do anything.
Yeah. Okay, he's just doing the brush there. Anyway, but this goes on for maybe a half an hour. The podcasts run anywhere from 15 minutes usually to about a half an hour, okay? Now, we watched a little bit of this, and it sort of remembers. iTunes remembers if you have a bunch of these listed, and you go back in and start, it'll pick up where you left off, okay? And you can always go back and forward however you want in any one of these particular tapes. But I have podcasts here on a bunch of really weird topics. Adobe Creative Suite, for example, right now, his last one was how to use image trace in Adobe Illustrator CS6 to turn a photo into a logo, all right? That's something I've always wanted to know how to do. But he also, under Creative Suite, this is what's his name, Green. He's very good at doing standard Photoshop stuff too. He's a very good instructor for that kind of stuff. Ask Dave. Ask Dave is what's his name? The Canadian, and he's got, I don't know how many. I want to see how many episodes there are available. If you want to see the old episodes, you just right click. And you come down and you say, show all available episodes. And those are the available episodes that are available on iTunes. Okay? And yeah, so he's up to 121 now. So he's got all 121 episodes. You can go, and let me download one, because this downloads quickly, and I'll show you what it looks like. So if I want, see, the ones that are already downloaded are in dark color, or dark black, and the ones that haven't been downloaded are in gray. So if I want to get this particular one, all I have to do is come over here and click on the button that says Get. I click on it, and you see over here under Downloads, we got the spinning wheel, and we got one. If I click on it, you'll see there's a progress bar. It's trying to download it here. And when it finishes downloading it over there, then it'll be available to watch in iTunes itself. Now, every time you turn on iTunes, for whatever episode, for whatever podcast you have, it tries to go out and find if there's any new episodes for you automatically, okay? If you want to force it at any time, you can come down and when you're in podcast, you can come down and click on this button in the bottom right corner that says refresh. And when you click on that, it goes to the internet and it looks for new episodes. And in fact, you see it found something because now it's downloading 2 things. Wheel Report, the tech, I see it's finding more stuff that it's got available to it. Okay? And you can download them, you can cancel them, delete them, you can pause them if you want and restart them. Let me pause those too because otherwise we're going to be here a while. Oops. Okay? And basically it's a very nice little setup here. And like I said, you can learn a ton of material here. I don't see any reason on earth to ever pay anybody money for teaching. I shouldn't say that since I have a course starting in 2 weeks. But the good news is my course is very, very cheap. It's like $1. It's like $1 for 2 hours. Yeah. So it's a that's right. And we go out to eat afterwards. So that's yeah.
It's worth every penny.
So anyway, but it's true. I mean, what I charge you the $1 for 2 hours for is I watch all these podcasts for you, and I only pick out the good ones and show them in class. Yeah. So there you go. That way we don't need to reproduce this stuff. Yeah. That's true. Yeah. But there's all kinds of weird stuff on here. I mean, you can get free music. Okay. You can get, this is a Celtic myth pod show. They talk about Celtic myths. They play some music. They tell some old stories kind of stuff. Celtic Roots Radio. This guy's a riot. Yeah. They all have their bumper songs. So.
Hello and welcome to Celtic Roots Radio, coming to you today from Belfast, Northern Ireland.
Okay.
Celtic, folk rock, Appalachian, bluegrass, Scottish, Irish.
Whatever you want, you can get.
If it's Celtic or roots music you like.
He plays music. He talks about. He tells about the history of Ireland from his point of view. A little storytelling involved. A little bit of everything, basically.
Either was very dirty. I was really impressed with the mutt.
On the left side.
That's he does a half-hour podcast once a week, basically. Okay. D-Town TV is D-Town TV was a podcast that started out by the Kelby Group that was the first year it was out, it was just on Nikon. Then they expanded it to Nikon and Canon, and then they acknowledged there might be something beside a Nikon and a Canon. Okay, so and it is bounced around as to whoever's in town to do it each week, basically. So it'll be RC one week and Scott Kelby the next week and Kwiatkowski the next week, whatever. And again, it's tips. Larry Becker, Cheap Shots, has a podcast called Cheap Shots. He's been at the club here. And he's on it half the time. So there's all kinds of stuff like that. See if I don't know what that episode looks like.
Same thing we've been talking about. So let me
remember her?
Shot.
She was here last month.
Close up overhead. Okay, good. But now I want to make it so that the closest thing to the camera is her eyes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit you in this chair. Okay? And I'm going to have you look up at me. So take a seat. Lean forward. Good. And look up at me. So in this instance, if you compare the shots, if you compare before, it's kind of all evenly emphasized. But in this instance, closest thing I'm doing when I'm shooting kind of down on her like this is I'm bringing the eyes to the camera. So they look big, they look beautiful. See how it really emphasizes the eyes compared to before? Mm-hmm. So there's before and there. So the biggest thing is going to be your eyes. So that's what I try to do. A lot of times if I'm out on location, sit the subject on the ground. I'll photograph them like this because their eyes are going to be big and beautiful as they look up at me. So I hope you found some useful tips on how to pose models to emphasize the parts of the body you want to emphasize, and how to use your angles, whether you're sitting down, standing up, to make someone look taller, more slender, and really more flattering. This has been Lindsay Adler for D-Town TV.
Well, thank you very much. I'm sorry, I'm just emphasizing. We're just emphasizing.
We're shebanging.
We're shebanging. So, anyway, if you don't know what shebang stuff is, you will soon enough. You will soon enough. Thank you very much, Lindsay, for most of that stuff. If you want to take a look at the stuff that she's doing, this is going to be the place to do it. Make sure you take a look. PhotoshopWorld.com. You are going to be so upset with yourself if you miss it.
Yeah, I sat in her class at the Google Plus conference. She had 5 different lighting looks for fashion, like fresh lighting looks, and she was terrific. Very, very.
Yeah. So anyway, so they get there's basically this world of Photoshop speakers for the most part, and whoever is hot this year kind of deal, and these people are getting around. She's doing 30 events between now and Christmas. Just amazing how busy they get in a hurry. But you get a chance to hear supposedly the best in their field talking about what they're an expert in. Yeah. I was going to say the other if you looked at it there, it said she was doing one of the big ones at Photoshop World coming up in September. But what's his name? The first guy that did the video with DSLR with Vincent LaFerre. Vincent LaFerre is also speaking there, and of course we've had him here too. In fact, we had him here the day before he shot that video that made him world famous. Yeah. He was here at night with that brand new camera. He was the first person in North America to actually get his hands on a damn camera. And he left us. He went to New York City, rented a helicopter, and shot this video, which made him world famous. Yeah, yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, yeah. We pay him $50. Yeah. Now he won't come back. Yeah. But anyway, so there's a gazillion of these types of podcasts, and they're on every subject. I mean, I have one called the Dirtbag Diaries. It's actually about climbing. It's the Seattle area freaky bicycler, mountain climber type guys. And Dirtbag is where they keep the chalk for climbing rocks, in addition to whatever else. And they tell stories. It's just fascinating stories about falling off mountains and that kind of stuff. They have Scott Kelby has a thing called The Grid. The Grid is every week they get together for an hour, whoever happens to be in town, and they bullshit about something to do with photography. If nobody's there and they can't think of a topic, they do what they call blind critiques. They have their forum group send in pictures, and Scott and Matt or somebody they'll pop them up and they'll give you a critique of the picture right there. It's really fascinating to watch that. What? No, it's still going. Oh, in fact, right here. I didn't look at this one yet. Joe McNally, that's another famous photographer.
This week's episode of The Grid is sponsored by MPix. Shoot today, upload tonight, we ship tomorrow.
She's watching all of your shenanigans, and between that, Mr. Pete Collins sitting here at the front, and Brad Moore will be able to get all your comments into them. I kind of want to just more throw it to you guys for the most part. I just want to facilitate the conversation.
Okay.
So 3 things that I do want to talk about with that. I want to talk about the importance of photographic history, right? Okay. So it's going to be a very NPR kind of show, guys. I'm sorry. Scott and Matt leave, and I'm just like, you're listening to All Things Considered on National Public Radio. But we want to have that kind of conversation. I'm a big fan of photography. I'm a big fan of history, reading up on it and studying different types of people. And I kind of want to know what you guys are doing with that. So I know that we've gotten into a bunch of conversations about that. I know that you spend a lot of time doing.
And I kind of my head did a tilt-a-whirl, kind of like, what? But I realized afterwards he didn't literally want me to go try to get a nanny to kiss a moose. He wanted me to start thinking about John's style or proclivity when it came to photographs was to look for peculiarity. He was looking for the odd quality in a photograph, something that set it apart, something that made it distinct, and he tried to push you to think that way, which is what a good editor does.
Interesting enough. Now, who do you follow? Are there photographers that you look at? Are there photographers that you follow that you find, inspiring on things that you do?
So, you find it interesting or not. But the advantage of podcasts is, you start watching and you don't like it, you just, forget it for a while. Maybe come back to it when you really get bored. You get some weird guys like Russell Brown. Now, there's a character, right? And Russell's actually he's got a new one out. It's a detailed look at the adaptive wide-angle lens in Photoshop. And he's not as wild on this one as he used to be.
Welcome to this exciting adventure brought to you by The Russell Brown Show. In this tutorial, I want to talk about adaptive wide angle. Now, I've done some research into this and experimented, and I think I can reveal here today some really interesting details about working with adaptive wide angle. Now, let's start with this original image you see here. It's a fisheye image. Now we all know that we can correct this image with a simple lens correction, and I'm going to click on a lens correction right now so we can see what that looks like. If we take a look at this image, it looks pretty good, but the adjustments were global and predefined, and I had no way of making specific adjustments within the image of my own. Let's take a look at this next image right here. Now this image was adjusted with a new adaptive wide angle feature. I could go in and readjust everything in a unique and new way. It's really fantastic. Now that's what this presentation is all about, the ability to precisely control the distortion within your images. Now adaptive wide angle is all about projection types. A projection.
All right, I'm not going to go into the details. He's one of the guys that helps do the new things for Adobe. They give it to him to play, and he goes, yeah, okay. He's the guy that came out with the image processor routine in Adobe, and a whole bunch of those, the scripts that are available in Adobe now were things that he started way before they were in Adobe. Yeah. Yeah, he knows what he's doing, and a character. Let's see, what else? Irish and Celtic Music Podcast. Oh, this is one of my sources for background music when I need music for a slideshow, because you can basically, a lot of these play, they're just, it's just audio, and you can basically take the music. I'm sorry, what? Well, you know, they're broadcasting it, you know, so, you know, what happens here is the artists usually send it into these guys so that they can put it in their podcast. That's usually the agreement that they have, okay? So, yeah. So anyway, but if you know, often, you know, these guys usually are talking in between. It's like a half-hour program typically. So you get 4 or 5 songs, you get a little bit of discussion, a little bit of, you know, what they're doing, maybe a commercial or two along the way. And so what I do is I take the track like that and I pop it over into Audacity, and I use Audacity to chop it up into the individual tunes, and then I just resave it. And, you know, so then it's available for your own use to listen to. But, you know, if you want to try to slip it in on a slideshow here, you get away with it, right? If you're going to put it in a slideshow, take it to Amherst and get paid to do it, you know, you might want to rethink that a little bit. But basically, it's a good source of music. And it's high-quality recording as opposed to YouTube, which tends not to be as high a quality. If you're stealing music from YouTube, you got to steal the good stuff. Yeah, that's right. So anyway, so there's a lot of those options. If you're into other things, you know, not even just photography, but if you're into technology, Leo Laporte is known as the tech guy. He has his own network. He's like 4th in size compared to, you know, the major networks. He's, you know, there's CBS, there's ABC, there's Fox, there's Leo Laporte, and then there's NBC, I think. Yeah. He broadcasts about 60 programs a week from some little cottage in Petaluma, California. Yeah. Actually, he's built a new place next to the cottage. But he does these half-hour podcasts and just going on continuously on any topic you want. Some of them are on, I mean, he's the tech guy, so he answers questions about computers. He has a program where he gets 4 or 5 of the geeks together from Silicon Valley, and they talk about, you know, sort of the backstory on everything going on in Silicon Valley. And they know everybody, you know, these, you know, and he's got the guy, who's the other guy? There's a guy here that I follow that, Windows Weekly, Paul Thoreau. Is if you used to write Byte magazine, he was like one of the major guys, columnists at Byte magazine. But he specializes in Windows. Yeah, and so it's all been about Windows 8 for the last couple of months, you know, and how good and how bad it is, and how terrible it really is, and yeah, okay. And I got a podcast here on Security Now. That's another one of his podcasts. He's got the guy Steve Gibbs from Steve Gibbs Research. Steve Gibbs was the first guy to define computer virus. He came up with the phrase computer virus. But he sells a product called SpinRite. If you have a hard drive that dies, and you think it's deader than a doornail, but it spins. It has to spin. But if it spins and you can't get your data off of it, you take this little SpinRite disk and pop it in, and leave your computer for 3 or 4, maybe hours or maybe 3 or 4 days. But SpinRite will fix that damn disk. Yeah. And it's like a $50 program. It's amazing how well it works. It's still available. He's got some newer ones too. But it turns out SpinRite still works on every operating system. Doesn't matter. It just really works at cleaning up hard drives. So he calls it security now. And he discusses all the virus threats, whatever's going on bad in the world of computers. This episode is password cracking update, cracking MS chat versus sync being proactive and more. Yeah, it's a little technical, but hey, you never know. Oh, and then another good program on technology is TechZilla. If you've ever played with TechZilla, TechZilla they do like 5 1 or 2 minute segments. So it's sort of like the tip of the day, the software of the day kind of thing. And then they do a half-hour program each week on a lot of it's on what's going on in Blu-ray, high definition TV, getting all of that. Solving your interactivity problems, a lot of conductivity. It's all the old guys from Tech TV. It's Patrick Norton. What's her name? The only good-looking woman in the computer industry. I've got her here. She's always does these ones.
Today's TechZilla Daily is brought to you by Carbonite. Welcome to TechZilla Daily. I'm Veronica Belmont. If you'd rather listen to your favorite blogs instead of reading them, check out the new web app SoundGecko. Just head over to the site, enter the URL of the article that you wish to listen to, and your email address. Then just click Get MP3. Shortly, you'll receive an audio transcription of the text in your inbox.
The researchers claimed a high level of certainty that the new particle is the long-sought Higgs boson.
Yes, it does sound a little bit robot-y, but hey, that's a lot more audio than you had a minute ago. Or if you don't want them to email you the files, you can also have them automatically sync with your Google Drive or Dropbox account or use their handy iPhone app. It's totally free now for unlimited use, so hopefully we won't start getting audio ads stuck into our content later down the line. Check it out today at soundgecko.com, and thanks to Lifehacker for the tip. And if you have any tips or...
Okay, anyway. But you get the idea. It's, so if you get your geek on, sort of, yeah. Here's a podcast by Roz. Roz is this woman who actually has rowed around the world in a rowboat. First, she rowed the Atlantic. She made it 90% of the way, and they had to rescue her. And then she tried it again, and this time she made it from England to the Caribbean. Then she went from San Francisco to Hawaii, then from Hawaii to Indonesia. And then she went from northern Australia over to, like, the Red Sea. Had to avoid the pirates. That was a tough one, okay? So she's actually rowed this stupid rowboat around the world, okay? And and she, as she was rowing, she had a satellite, connection, and she was doing it solo, and it's taken her like 3 months, in the middle of the Pacific, and every week she's broadcasting a podcast live back to Leo Laporte, who is putting it on his network. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 So anyway, there's all kinds of. There's a world of stuff out there that's really interesting to get. In addition, there's Renaissance Festival podcast if you're into Renaissance Festival music.
Drink because we are.
Yeah, some bad Renaissance music. Some good, some bad.
So Jack stood up and said, I must be off. The barkeep said, no, I don't mean to scoff, but you're in here nightly and never do go. So what say we both just have one for the road? Barkeep said, what'll it be? Oh, I'll have one whiskey, one porter, one rye, and bring me some cider, I'll give that a try. Bring me 2 rums, one buttered, one cold, and bring me a scotch at least 7 years old.
Okay, you get the idea.
Hello, this is John Miller, the creator of Everest. I think I can safely say that this show...
Chris Marquardt, who is a German guy who used to be the Photoshop expert on Tech TV with Leo Laporte. These guys are all related, right? He's back in Germany, Tuburg, Germany, and he does workshops all around the world now. They've gotten very popular. He has the longest running of his own podcast on photography. It's called Tips from the Top Floor, okay? And anyway, he's teamed up with this videographer, basically, and they've been, for the last 4 years now, every year they've been taking a 2-week or 3-week photo trek to Everest. Okay, they've done all 3 sides. This is one of the last episodes from the Tibet side. They pretty much got it to themselves. There was one other party of 4 people on that side of the world. Okay, and the rest of it was just these guys with their Sherpas and their transportation.
Is without a doubt the most in-depth look into the entire experience of what it takes to climb Everest, as well as some other peaks throughout.
So this is a photo, just a photo walk.
Chronological order. So
The horizon's overexposed in this shot. Just the mountains were so rugged around us. We just surrounded by.
They go to advanced base camp on all of these. Yeah.
Yeah, I had been
Look at
really
this stuff.
sick, I think, the day before, so I just really had to take my time this day. I was very slow in leaving camp.
I can't remember whether I mentioned it or someone else mentioned it, but I was like, well, we should just pee on the ice. That'll melt it. It's a lot of fun.
That's how they got over an icy
do
patch.
And he runs up footage. It was pretty easy going. It was very little.
Ass like that.
Look at this guy with a snowman on his head. Yeah.
So remember that, everyone. Jimmy's nickname is Ass Like That. That's the first thing I would have thought when I saw him.
And he was the sweetest guy of all of them.
See this up here?
He was so sweet. I saw that. I saw little love notes all along the way down.
So very close to North Base Base Camp.
Yeah. But everything has like.
You could go higher. Could. If you go, I'll go. Oh, that's not fair. You're supposed to leave.
Actually, that's perfectly fair. Visible on top. And this one to the left is?
That's Chris Marcotte talking on
Over
this
here?
one.
Yep. A big mountain. Yes. Does it have a name? It's a big mountain. It's a big mountain. Big mountain in Tibet. It's a.
That's
Some
Chris.
of these mountains actually don't have names. It's not Makalu. No, it's not Makalu. Makalu is behind it.
Yeah, so this is Chris Marcotte in the foreground, and the John somebody is the videographer behind him, basically. So the two of them got together and decided, what the hell, and they take like 20, 25 people up there, photographers. They've got this, they've hired this Sherpa company, basically. There's about, they've got there's like 20 herders for the animals. There's, they set up about 9 tents, cooking tents, the whole thing, basically. And it's pretty impressive. Yeah. And he's done about. They came back and they've done about. This is episode 176 for 4 years. So, he shot a lot of video. Yeah. So it's actually kind of interesting. Yeah. So anyway, all kinds of stuff there. We even have Rick Salmon as podcast. Everybody knows Rick Salmon. Which one is it? I haven't looked at this. Let's see what this is. Oh, this is one of his little shorties. He did 10 little short tips on photography. So let's say using reflector. Well, let's see. Let's try one. Oops, can't locate it. Did I kill him? I may not have him on this computer. What else have I got on here? Yeah, the exclamation mark means that iTunes can't find it because either I moved it or I deleted it. Okay, and I moved this list over from the other computer, so I might not have moved all the files with it. Okay, so in any case, there's a lot of bounce here. Let's see. Understanding Adobe Photoshop is Richard Harrington. Richard Harrington's a videographer who's a real expert on Photoshop, but he approaches things from a videographer standpoint. So he talks about lower thirds. He's the guy with the same T-shirt all the time. Yeah, each new season's a different color T-shirt. But he also has a podcast called The Creative Cow, which is really about video. It's video DSLR. It's really if you ever think you're going to get into, your camera shoots video and you think, wow, I'm going to be a star, I mean, my God, he starts with the 7D Mark II, whatever, that shoots video, and then he adds about 40 times the weight in audio equipment and lens pullers and dollies and all kinds of stuff to it to make, you know, a 30-second video clip. You go, yeah, right, okay. So it's shooting video is a lot more complicated than you think. And the one thing I've learned watching him is that sound is more important than video when you're telling a story. Always. I mean, that's every videographer will tell you that the video doesn't really matter that much as the sound. If the quality of the sound sucks, you got a terrible video, no matter how good the pictures are. Yeah. So anyway, but he also does Photoshop tips. Okay. So for example, let me jump ahead.
Let's take a look at the new GPU-accelerated oil paint filter and how it can stylize an image. I'll choose Filter, Convert for Smart Filters, and this allows me to run the effect non-destructively. I'll now choose Filter, Oil Paint. Now, this effect works best when you can view it at 100%, so you can accurately judge what the effect is achieving. I really like the stylization slider. Lower values get a bit gritty, but I'm going to bump that up so it's a little bit smooth and swirly. And then play with the cleanliness to add a little bit of contrast to those lines. I think that looks good. Scale will pull up the size of your strokes, and that seems about natural. We've got nice curves here, and I like how the strokes flow around the stalks. Bump down the detail a little bit and play with the lighting. Want to work with those highlights on the fruit, and I'll bump the shine up. That looks good. I'll click OK. And remember, since it's a smart filter, I can always double click and blend that back a little bit, or use any of the modes that I have to mix them. Now, that looks pretty good. I'm just going to back that down. Click OK. And run the filter one more time by pressing Command F. Same values load. On a Mac, that's Command. On a PC, that's Control. And we'll just back that off a little bit. Not changing the mode so much here, but just the opacity so it mixes. All right, that looks great. I'm going to toss on a pattern adjustment layer. And I want to go in and load some artist surfaces. There we go. And different textures and canvases to work with. I want something a little bit softer. That looks good. Let's adjust the scale there. And I could change its mode. I'll select the Move tool and press Shift+ to cycle through my blending modes. And all I'm doing is mixing in that texture with the background. That looks kind of good. Let's see here. I think I like that. A little bit of darkening from the texture. It makes it look like it's on an actual surface. So there you go. One of many ways to create a more painterly look in your image, but it's a very popular approach with Adobe Photoshop.
Okay, so you just, not bad. Knows what he's doing. It's a look. Okay, so anyway, so basically, you can get these podcasts and spend literally, I probably spend 10 hours a week listening to these damn things. Yeah. But you put the headphones on, you're talking to somebody else, you're watching TV, you're working on the computer, and you're listening to the podcast all at the same time. It works out reasonably well. Yeah. Okay. A little multitasking. CS6. They had it available as, was it Pixar Bender? It was a plugin that you could get from Adobe Labs for CS5. That's right. The rest of the ones don't work. They only took the oil painting one out of it, and made that into a regular filter. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's iTunes basically. Basically, I wanted to look at YouTube. I subscribe to a bunch of different ones. I said different photographers. I subscribe to to Adorama. I subscribe to the B&H, several different photographers. I also subscribe to things like the NASCAR ones. I subscribe to the professional bull riders. Now, if you think, I don't know if you guys know this. I want to show you a tape here. Let me go full screen on that one.
The clock malfunctioned, but it looks as though J.B. Mooney has done it. The buck-off streak is over. Asteroid has been conquered.
And Craig, I got to eat my words from earlier. I said the Bulls going to have a bad day for one of these guys to stay on. That wasn't the case right there tonight. That Bull had a great day, tried as hard as he could. J.B. Mooney just slayed a dragon.
We're being told it was a clock malfunction, but anyone could have counted on their fingers. 8 seconds easy. Banged up J.B. Mooney conquers one of the titans of the sport.
And again, this Bull has a great day. That's as good as Asteroid ever is. That's and when J.B. Mooney picked that Bull tonight, Craig, it wasn't, just trying to be the cool guy and pick one of the toughest bulls in the world. It was with conviction because he knew that he could ride him.
They are standing on their feet in the AT&T Center, 93.5 points. JB is with lead.
J.B. Mooney, by the those of you who know Marilyn Monsanto from Color Camera, she has a nephew by the name of Shane Proctor. Shane Proctor lives next door to J.B. Mooney. Shane Proctor is also a bull rider. Shane Proctor married J.B.'s sister, okay? So they're now brother-in-laws, right? And J.B. right now he just moved. It's interesting. Shane won the Touring Pro division last year. And on the final bull he rode, the bull stepped on his arm and broke his arm in 3 places. So he's been out of action for 3 months. So he's not doing too well on this circuit this year because he's been out for 3 months. JB, on the other hand, was healthy going into the new season this year, but about a month in, he had a bull step on his wrist and break his wrist. So he was out. He should have been out for 2 months with the broken wrist. And it was the wrist that they tuck in under the bull, that they wrap the rope in, so that's where all your strength is. And so what he did is he was third in the world at the time, okay? So he didn't want to lose the points because he had to miss like 5 or 6 events. So what he did is he put a cast on that arm. He took the other hand and wrapped the rope in it. That's sort of the equivalent like you riding a bicycle all your life and then turning the seat around and riding it backwards. That's about the feeling it's. And so he came out on a bull and he rode the damn bull. Can you believe it? With the wrong hand. And it gave him enough points that he's now back up. He's 4th in the world right now, anyway. But exciting event, sort of. But they televise this. If you like to follow something like this, you can find it on what used to be Versus on cable TV, which is now NBC Sports, I think, network. And they televise half of them on NBC Sports, which most of us get either on Cablevision or Fios. They televise the other half on CBS Sports, I think it is, which nobody on earth gets, from what I can tell. And but they also put all of the individual rides they put on YouTube. Okay, so if you want to watch it the next day, basically they all show up on YouTube, and you don't have to sit there and watch the whole event. You just look on the list and watch the ones you want to watch. So YouTube's very useful for stuff like this. Let me switch over to what I did is I decided if other people can create channels on YouTube, why couldn't I? So I did. So you can sign up, usually using your Google account for the most part. So I created a Dick Budnick channel, basically. Okay. And if I click on my channel up here, you can see, and YouTube's really weird because they show you what your friends like and all that kind of stuff. And anyway, so I put up a couple just to test it. As I said, I'm limited to 15 minutes. So these are some videos I had done earlier by creating an action in Photoshop. And it's a short video, so I put it up for that.
This is a quick podcast on how to create an action with Photoshop CS5. First thing we do is we open up an image, any image, on our in Photoshop CS5. Okay. Now, to create an action, what we want to do is record a series of steps we would use for processing the image. In this particular case, the only thing I really want to do to this image is to lighten up the midtones considerably. I know that when I project them on my bright monitor at home, everything looks...
Okay, I'm not going to show this because it's boring. But this is an alternative. It's streaming video, okay? What I've been doing, if you notice, if you've been in the club for a while, I sort of been playing around trying to figure out for my class how to create videos that I can preserve for the class. So what we did is, if you go back to the WPS website, all right, if you start at our homepage and you come down to links down on the left side and click on links, we have a links page on the website where if you're a member and you have a website, if you give me the link to it, I'll put it up here. So we have Mono's website, Eleanor's websites on here. My regular website, but I also put up a website called Dick's Experimental Podcast. If I click on that, this is just sort of where I started. I've been playing around, with different software, because you basically have to create a podcast, you have to record the screen. You have to make a movie out of what you're seeing on the screen, and which is what I'm doing right now, actually. But it took me a while to find some decent software to do this. So I've sort of gone through all these attempts. The problem with these attempts, for example, last week's lecture is right here, 3 Photoshop tips. If I click on this, it doesn't start playing in streaming video. It downloads the whole file to your computer. And it's this one's almost 500 megabytes long. So it takes like 20 minutes to download this to your computer. And if you just click on it once, it downloads it, plays it, but doesn't save it. If you right-click and say, Save Link As, then it downloads it to your computer and saves it so you can replay it. So I said, well, that's all fine and good, except that nobody's going to do that, right? I mean, how many people have ever looked at that, right? Nobody. So actually, one person did, I think. So instead, I said, well, it's easier just to take these podcasts, basically, and just put them right up onto YouTube directly, and then you can play them all as streaming video on YouTube. Now, like I said, the limitation right now is they're 15 minutes long. That's all they give you is 15 minutes. But 15 minutes it should be enough, you would think. And if you have to break it up into a couple of different ones, that's fine too. So let me go back there. Okay, so in addition to being able to have your own channel on YouTube, you can subscribe to other people's channels. So if you're in YouTube and you're watching anything, there's usually a subscribe button that comes up, and you can click on subscribe. And what it does is it basically, anytime the channel you subscribe to, that person puts up a new video, it will send you an email and say, Rick Salmon put up a new video, and this is the title, and you click on the link, and it takes you right to it. So it makes it really easy to keep track of this stuff. And, if you again, it's email, so watch it or throw it away. Who cares? And if you want to go in and see who you're subscribed to, if I click on subscriptions, these are the current people I'm subscribing to at the moment, at least on this computer. I've got Photo Gavin. Gavin is a photographer from England, does a pretty good job. The PBR is the professional bow riders thing. Michael the Mentor. Okay, we have the Kelly Media Group. So if you want to get any of the Kelly, you want to get D-Town TV, you want to get Photoshop User TV, Photoshop, Dave's Killer Tips, any of those things are available under the Kelly Media Group. And for example, we also have Adorama and B&H. So if you click on B&H, for example, it takes you over here, and if I throw out the recommended, these are basically the recent lectures that B&H has posted as YouTube videos. These are all most of these are like the 1-hour lectures that they do every Tuesday or whatever it is at Adorama. And some of these are really good. They get big name speakers here on a lot of these. Let me see. Anybody we recognize? Yeah. Frank did one, and of course Rob Dublin did one too. Rob said that they didn't tape his. They would just, for some reason, they'd moved to a new room, and it was down right at the time that they were doing that. But you know, you often get guys, you know, McNally comes through here, the Kelby guys. What's her name? The photo diva, Judy Host. Is it Host? Julianne Cost. Julianne Cost is on here. Okay. And Adorama, let me go to the Adorama one. Adorama has the same thing. Go to Adorama TV. All right, get rid of recommended. And for example, here we go, Joe McNally.
Adorama TV presents Photo on the Go with Joe McNally, where you'll go behind the scenes to see how great photos are made. Here's your host, Joe McNally.
This is Joe McNally for Adorama TV, and in this segment we're going to talk again about line of sight TTL transmission at a distance, and also using color gels to alter or match the color environment you're shooting in. I like these shuttered shops. There's a strong graphic line, okay? And I also picked up on the fact that there's some red kind of glint. So at ISO 200, which is good ISO to stay at because it really means quality and detail, I've got a 30th roughly at f2.8 and just a glimmer of red off of all of these shuttered shops. So how do I maintain that shutter speed and augment the red? Well, I'm going to use angle of incidence, angular reflection. I'm going to take a TTL flash. It'll be my background light, so it'll be in group C. I'm going to put this flash, as you see, there's a red gel on it. And I've also sealed the gel over the flash head. So in other words, there's no white light bleeding around it. It's all red coming out of here. So I'm going to put this down the block and try to make sure that it has great efficiency by matching angle of incidence to angular reflection right into my camera lens. So in other words, this light will be down the block and it'll hit the storefront and skip literally right into the lens of the camera, and it should take this minimal red glow that I'm seeing that's inspiring the use of this particular location and really augment it with artificial flash light. So that means I don't have to drag my shutter or lengthen my shutter speed out to kind of get the ambient light, because then I'm going to get into a situation where it'd be tough to hand hold, and also the model may not be sharp because the shutter speed is so lengthy. So what's the problem, or the enemy really, when you're trying to create a saturated color environment? Lots and lots of white light bouncing all over the place. This is a great flash light shaper, but what's the situation here? It's a big expanse of white area that the flash is coming through, and it's spreading all over the place, and it's mitigating the effect of the red environment, the red gel that I'm trying to create. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a very simple thing called a fabric grid. This will Velcro right into the front of the light shaper. And what it does...
Let me jump ahead just a little bit here.
Pedestrian traffic, always important. I also mentioned that it was going to be a group C light, and that's the way I usually work. My background lights are always my group C light. But I'm going to try to do this particular setup, and you can see, or you will see in the shot, how far that light is away, but I'm going to try to work with the pop-up or built-in flash on a D800, which means that that light now is my background light, but I cannot put it into group C. I'll put it into group B, because with the pop-up or commander flash that you're using here built into the camera, you only have command of two groups, A and B. All right, now let's switch up to the egg crate. Beautiful, a little higher, Raymond, a little higher. There you go, good, good, good.
So that's the light that the red that he's getting from that little flash. It's pretty amazing.
Gorgeous. We had an absolutely beautiful model here, Fang. She's very well known here in Asia. She's spectacular. She was out on the street with us. And I'm using a 70 to 200 millimeter lens. My finals were manual on the camera, 30th around 2.8, ISO 200 all the way through. I'm using the pop-up or built-in flash to command both my main light and my background light. My background light is quite a distance away. Halfway down the block. It's firing off of this. It's red gelled, creating this red environment that's sliding a color all along these horizontal slats, which are a powerful graphic. We're using as a main light for my subject in this neighborhood an EasyBox Hot Shoe Softbox, and dropped into the front of it, as you can see, is a fabric grid. The reason I did that was I did not want a lot of white light bleed, okay, all over the environment up in here, especially now that we created a color environment that we were going after, namely the red that's coming from the background light. So, case in point, if you're going to gel to a theatrical measure the environment, you have to be very careful with applying white light flash. If you lose control of that, if you let it get everywhere on the set, it's going to destroy the color environment that you're trying to create. So the fabric grid helped me retain control of the light up front, and then I flooded literally the background with a bunch of red light coming from one flash down the block. Because it's so dark out here on the street, what we did to introduce, the only other light we had on the set was a small LED focusing light at very, very dim power, just providing a little contrast for my subject up front who's operating in the shadows. That way the camera could pick up on that contrast level and focus properly. From the streets of Hong Kong, it's Joe McNally for Adorama TV.
Not bad. Well, the word of the masters, as they say. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Oh, well, I have it saved as, in fact, I save these as a WMV files, Windows Plays and Windows Media Player. Okay, so it's just, it's a video file. Could be an MPEG-4, it doesn't matter. YouTube can handle any of that. And all you do to upload it here, let's see if I can, I'm sorry, what? Getting it to YouTube, yeah. All you do is, let's see, Video Manager. You go to Video Manager here. Okay, you're right, that's it. Upload a video. Okay. Select files from your computer. Okay, so now you just go find something on your computer. Look under C, Dick's Podcast. There's some podcast. I'm going to pick one that's going to be too big, probably. There are 15 minutes is the longest it can be. So you can see from the length. All right, this one's 9 minutes, but I think this one's already up there. Yeah. But anyway, what you would do is basically click on here and say open, and it's starting to upload it, see? You can give it a name, whatever title you want. You can write a little description, put in tags for things like, photography, tutoring, actions, Photoshop, whatever. Tell what kind of a license you want to set it up under. What category? I don't know what this thing's not uploading. I'm going to cancel it because it's already there. Okay. You can set it for privacy, unlisted, or private showing. All right. So you can control that, who gets to see it. The categories. I don't know what is the appropriate category for. There's a how-tos, for example. How-to and style is one of the categories. Could be education. You could put it under. Film and animation. You could put it under, I guess. Okay, so anyway, so you do that basically, and if it accepts it, it goes through this thing, the progress bar goes up to the end, it sits there for about 2 minutes. Well, I guess the server is checking it out to see if it fits their standards or whatever. I think it actually rescales it to some extent. It must do that, and then it's there. A URL, an actual link appears. You click on the link, and there it is. Yeah. So it's pretty easy to do, actually. Anyway, so YouTube is very powerful in the sense that you have all this stuff available to you. Everything's free. Now here's the Kelby guys. You see, you've got Photoshop User TV, you got the Grid, you've got D-Town TV, you got Photo Walks. Scott Kelby's Worldwide Photo Walk there, I guess. Kelby Training. Some of the Kelby Training stuff is up there. And it just goes on and on. So there's just an enormous amount of material there available. Like I said, I get emails from a lot of fathers who say, my daughter is in high school and she's interested in a career in photography. And where can we steer her so that she can get good photos, good training in photography before she leaves high school? And it's sort of like, just go on YouTube, go on iTunes, get the stuff for free. Why waste your time as a high school kid trying to take a course, when you can basically just stay home and watch the stuff. Yeah. So anyway, that's what I really wanted to show tonight, was basically to me the most useful things is the YouTube, finding stuff on YouTube, and then iTunes itself are the biggest sources. Every one of these guys have their own, like Leo Laporte has his own website. He has a different website for every one of his 60 different broadcasts that he does. You can, when they're filming their podcast, you can go live TV and watch him. They got cameras in the studio filming the guys who are filming him. Yeah. And that's all going on live all the time. So, like I said, there's just an enormous wealth of material out there. And, of course, if you want to know anything about anything, you just Google it, right? I mean, that's going to come up, And you can't go wrong on the Internet. So, anyway, that's all I wanted to do tonight.